So today we're going to be installing this REI 3D 360 degree 3D camera system on our bus. It's a vintage motorhome, 1947 converted Greyhound bus. This camera system is from REI. They make really good quality commercial grade products, electronics and stuff for buses, a lot of bus companies, RVs, stuff like that. So this camera system, what it consists of are 4 cameras like this that mount on the exterior of the bus. These are fisheye lenses, and then the computer software inside of this little brain here stitches it together to make this like overhead aerial view of your bus. So when you're backing up or turning corners, you can see things in blind spots, or when you're changing lanes. It's really, really intelligent. So we're going to start the install procedure. I think it's going to take us probably about 2 hours or so to install all of the cameras and this stuff on the bus, and then maybe another hour and a half to do the calibration for the cameras, because the fisheye lenses naturally, if you've ever seen one, it takes an image like if this was the side of the bus and it's a straight line, when you view it in the fisheye lens, it's curved. It'll be, you know, what's on the ends is curved up like that. It's kind of a spherical distortion. So the camera view takes things that are curved like that, and then you input these points into it, and the computer basically straightens it out. So even though it had a curved camera view of the side and the front edges of the bus, the software in this thing straightens it all out and stitches it together perfectly. So we're looking forward to this install. It should be a really fun product for us to have on the bus. Safety reasons and things like that too. It's going to be great. So the first thing we do is remove the camera from the housing, because the housing is what's going to get attached to the bus itself. And the cameras go all at the same height in the middle of whatever section of the bus that they're on. So we'll go through and show you that. But if you're like a dog nose on your bus, like a schoolie that has like the nose of the bus, the engine's in the front, so it sticks out further, you just have to put the front camera up as high as possible, but on the furthest forward part. So luckily for us, we have a pusher, and our bus is pretty square as far as angles and stuff like that for mounting them. So we've got really good spots to put them, but we got to get out there with the tape measure and start lining things up and figure out where the cameras are going to go. And then drilling through the side of the bus with the wires and stuff is going to be the most challenging part for us, but we'll get it done here in just a little bit. So this is our 1947 Greyhound bus that we're going to be installing the camera system on, and we have a really nice kind of a drip rail up there, so it's a nice even edge that is the same height as the center of the windshield there, so we'll be on the same height. And then when we get around the back, it's going to be off just a little bit because of the back roof curves in. See if I can go back there and show this. So I'm gonna have to put it, I suppose I could maybe go a little bit higher than where that reverse camera was, which we're gonna be removing that because we won't need that backup camera anymore. So I guess the height is gonna be real close. Yeah, we can get the height the same, because you can see the drip rail curves around from the side right there. So, okay, time to get started. Okay, so we have run a tape measure down the side of the bus. We put the front of it exactly even with the plane where the camera is going to mount in the front, and then the back camera, so we're going to be 34 feet 2 inches. If I kind of come up, you'll see the same plane on the back of the bus where that camera is going to mount. Again, that camera that's on there now is going to be removed. So 34 feet 2 inches. We're going to mount the camera in the center, exact center of the bus. So it's going to be 17 feet 1 inch that we're going to put the camera, which will be the middle of the bus here. 17 feet 1 inch is going to bring me right here, which is just above that window right there. It was raining the other day, and we had a tarp up over I got all my tool bays and everything, my tool boxes and stuff in here, so we didn't want that to get wet. So yeah, right there, that's where our first camera is going to go. So it comes with these little drill templates. They're little stickers that you can stick on, and then I pre-drilled my holes so that the self-tappers are going to go right through, no problem with that. And I got to drill a hole for the cable still, and then my cable is actually going to go in up under my soffit here, so that'll help protect it for the weather too, because that's sealed up in there, so that's good. There's a gutter rail up in here, so the water won't ever get into it. So I've got that camera mounted. I do see a potential problem that I'm going to need to address right now. That drip rail sits back at a little bit of an angle. It's not perfectly straight with the side of the bus. So I'm going to remove the top 2 screws on that and shim them out with some washers to make it so it's a little bit more level. I mean, maybe I'll get away with it because the camera does tip down a little further, but that might be a potential problem. I'll probably have to adjust for that. Maybe I'll leave it like that for now and see how it works in the software. If I'm not seeing the ground, then I'll adjust it. So in order to combat that angle, I did stick a washer behind it there, and I think that helped. I might have to do another one though, but we'll see, just because of the angle of that drip rail. But I think the installation looks pretty good there. The little hole at the top is the speaker, that's the top, and this is the bottom. So the camera in the back I had to mount a little differently, where I ran with the wire here and then in. This is a structural mount that's real thick in there, and my engine weight hangs on the back of the bus. So I didn't want to mess with that structure there. So I ran that wire down like that. And it's pretty close to the same height, but I had to come down a little bit because the curvature of the back of the bus really starts to curve a lot above that. So, but I think we're gonna be good. We're losing daylight for today. We're about an hour and a half into the installation right now. Okay, well, we had to mount that camera in the middle of the bus on the front, just because it was up on the top between the windshield there. There's a really big structural piece of angle iron right behind there, and there's really not a place to drill through. And I thought I could run the cord maybe up over and then go up into the soffit there, but there's really no way to do that. It's really thick steel there, or aluminum, and I didn't want to mess up with the structure there. So we decided we'll do it low like that. Also, if it was up higher, if I'd have went above the sign, then the line of sight angle would have put me out about 3 feet from the front of the bus, and that would kind of defeat the purpose. So this way I can actually see the bumper, and I think it'll work just fine in the stitching. This is where it starts to get a little bit more confusing, but not overly complicated. Everything is labeled where it goes. So the electrical diagram is here, where it shows what everything gets hooked up to. So you have the IR receiver, which allows the remote control to operate. There's a 2D, 3D switch. That's a little press button. It's a little clicky button. So that's something for the operator to have. The power line, that you just wire that in. It's got a hot to the battery, and then a ground, and then an accessory lead on it. And then the 4 cameras, and then the wire that goes to the triggers. And then there's a CAN bus, which I don't have that, so I'm not sure what we're gonna do about that. And then everything goes into the brain box, and then HDMI that goes to the monitor, and then there's a separate power cable that also goes to the monitor itself. So all of that wiring is here. It's gonna take a little bit of time to sort out, but everything is nice and labeled. You know, they use like shrink wrap on there where everything's individually labeled, so that's gonna be very nice to go through and do that. So it's not super complicated, but it is there. And the only thing I'm not sure about is the CAN bus, because I don't have that. Okay, so we're going to install this REI monitor where my Amazon monitor was at, and you can definitely tell just by the feel of it, the quality of this, how robust it is compared to what that one is. Number one, it weighs 3 times as much, but it just feels more like a quality unit. It's, you know, they use good materials on it. So anyways, I'm going to replace this with that, but that one there I've got stuck. My bus came with this window tint on this lower part of the window, and I'm going to pull that off, which will make a lot of my YouTube viewers real happy, because they've been complaining about that for a long time. I just never took it off. It's been on this since I got it. It was a pain. But I'm going to remove that, and that's where the new monitor is going to get mounted for the 360 camera system. So I need to make sure that the monitor is going to be in a good position where my door handle doesn't interfere with it, and I can go both ways with it. We're going to window mount it, and it has a really nice mount on the back. Very, very secure. So on my wiring here, the only thing that I need to hook up for the monitor is the power in and the ground in. Those are the only 2 that I need to hook up on here on my system for the monitor. The rest of these are camera 1, camera 2, trigger 1, trigger 2, trigger 3. The camera feed for mine's coming in through an HDMI, so I believe I don't use any of these. So we'll find that out in a minute. So So I have everything temporarily hooked up here, just to test the system before I finish installing all the wires completely. So we'll power it up here in a second, and as soon as I put the memory chip card in it, and see how it's looking. Okay, so we have this temporarily hooked up now, and so there's no calibration to it whatsoever, so it looks terrible that way. You know, the stitching is really bad. But when I turn on like my left, like you can see outside too, it's really dark outside. But that infrared night vision stuff is really good on there. And then when I turn on my trigger, like for left, see if I can trigger it here, left turn signal, it shows the left side view, and I'm parked right next to a building, so you can see the side of the building there. The cameras are not aimed at the correct angles yet, and I got to, again, calibrate it, but everything is working. And if I trigger left turn signal, you can see the trees that are right over there. And those trees are literally a foot away from the bus. There's, well, maybe 2 feet. So it's pretty good, but we still got to get the angle right. And then if I trigger it for reverse, sorry, I dropped the wire. I think it was my green one here. And then it'll show me the reverse angle, which is back behind me there between the trees and the building. And then once you can set the delay, so once you trigger the reverse, like you can have it set for 3 seconds until it stops getting the signal, and then it'll go back to the front view. And you can trigger it for 3D mode. And this is a touchscreen monitor as well, which is really cool. Of course, I don't know how to do it. There it is. So all that stuff is on the touch screen. And then there's a remote that goes with it as well, and it records onto a memory card. So we just got to get the calibration set and everything now, and then finish the final routing of the wires to the inside and the interior here. I just have them hooked up to the electrical panel right now, so we've got to run them permanently, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was working, and we just got a little bit of aiming and then the calibration to do tomorrow, and I think it's going to be awesome to have. I can't wait. So I'm running the wires for my cameras, and I got a little section where I just have to run it on the exterior wall here. I have these special little zip ties that I had got from an RV surplus place. You just drill a little hole, stick it in the hole, it locks in, it holds it. You can pull the wire tight. See if I can... I don't know if I can do this with one hand or not. There we go, and then you just have to cut the zip tie off, and it'll be a nice little installation. You won't really notice it very much. It's above my door. I didn't want to have to tear apart the ceiling, so a couple little holes, couple zip ties. Maybe I'll put a piece of trim over it later. So we definitely added a bunch of spaghetti up here to my electrical panel, but it'll all get tucked out of the way. I got everything kind of bundled up so it can't get tangled up with anything in the future. So now my problem is getting my dashboard to go back into place with all that extra wiring back in there. There is room for it, but I just need to tidy it up a little bit better and get it. And then we're still hooking up the signal wires permanently. But I was just kind of dry fitting everything, and I got about 3 inches of clearance I need to free up. Okay, so here's our calibration kit. I think that's everything that came in the calibration kit. The 2 cones, and then a whole bunch of these little disc targets that we're going to lay out at certain measurements. To calibrate the camera, we have an angle finder, tape measure, and then safety cones. We actually use the top of these. We set a target on there. It's a certain height off the ground at a certain distance, so that's all labeled on here. These bigger dots here, these are the cones, the darker ones. So some of the points overlap. That's how the camera stitches everything together. So like this target here and this one here are the ends of this camera, but then that one will be reused for the front camera targeting as well, the same point, and then this one down here gets reused on the rear with this one over here, and then so that's how it stitches it together, because it's sharing 2, 2, 2, and 2, and depending on the length of your bus or RV is how you choose which one you're going with here. And we're M, bus class M, which is because we're 34, almost 35 feet, so that's what that is there. So the calibration is a little, and you actually set this number in the computer when you're calibrating it as well, and then it tells it where these go. You'll see when we get into the computer software. So anyways, we're gonna start laying out the grid here, and you see we got a whole bunch of points to lay out. It shouldn't take us too long though. So here's our pre-calibration image in the daylight. So you see the front of the bus. I'm gonna turn on my right. That's pretty cool. My left. my rear. There's Tyler. So we're laying out the targets here using our sheet. All right. Okay, so we're laying out the calibration points here. Everything's looking pretty good. Okay, so it looks like we have all the calibration targets down and in the right places. We've double checked all of our measurements. And we'll get the cones in a little bit when we go to calibrate the 3D. Okay, so now we're going to start the calibration inside, so all the computer stuff to do for it, but it does look pretty good. We did just have Max the dog out there, and I was a little nervous he was going to pick up, every day he plays out here with his Frisbees, so I thought he was going to pick up those calibration targets, but thankfully he didn't. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so now we're doing the actual camera calibration, and I used the little remote here to move these cursors over to their specific targets, and then it zooms in on it so you can really see up close what it has there. So you can really get it exactly where it goes. So you set one, so that was number 5, and now I'm going to be over on number 6 there. And if I move it over closer to 6, and if you watch that little up close thing, that little square where it zooms in, so you can really get it precisely on the target. And this is how the 3D stitching works, is because you're setting these very specific points in the computer. That's a good one. Tyler's out there redoing the camera. I had to, like I talked about, putting some shims on the top. I had washers under it, but I wasn't able to see the ones closest to the bus, so I had to reposition that camera, and Tyler's just readjusting it for me now. Now I see all the targets in the camera view. Time to calibrate. Kelly's going to walk around the bus here, so you can see her in both the 3D camera and then the regular view. And then, like, if I went to make a left-hand turn, I would turn on my left turn signal, and it would show the left side of the bus there, closer in that view. And then I'll go back to the regular view, and you can still see her walking around the back side. And just to do it, I'll click in the reverse view, so I can see her in the back there, if I was putting in reverse. Or if I was going to turn to the right side, she's just now coming up into the right-hand side of the view. And then back to forward. That's pretty neat, huh? I need to see my mirror, Tyler, just in case. Blocks behind the tire, and I'll back up onto them. Give me a little bit of a ramp there. Thank you. Okay, you can also click a button and hold it down and have all 4 monitors appear at once on there. So that's kind of a neat view too. So even if you don't want the 3D 360 view, you can do that. So anyways, this install took us about 6, maybe 6.5 hours, I think, to do everything start to finish. I did it over 2 days. The biggest portion of it was running wiring and stuff inside the bus. I didn't really have an easy way to do that. I would say actually mounting the cameras to the vehicle, that only probably took an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and the more square of a vehicle, the easier it would be. Anyways, we'll let you know in the future how this works out for us, but as of right now, I think it's a really cool system.